Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is Spencer TCG here, back with an updated version of my Han deck list. We have changed a few things, and if you notice, my list is a little bit different than a lot of other people's that I see rolling around, and we're just going to go over why I made those choices and some general game plans into the decks that you could be playing against. So I would say like number one difference is I'm playing C3PO and R2D2. In my opinion, the best card in Han is Resupply because we just want to get to his ability as fast as we can. By playing R2D2 and C3PO, we get to see a lot more cards than our opponent. I played this deck into a couple of mirror matches the other weekend, and I was having a lot more success than they were just because I saw more pieces that I wanted to than they were. Because we're playing C3PO, we want to have a lot of targets that are the same cost. So if we look through our deck, we have 2, 5, 8, go to Ezra, 11, 14, 17, 20, 23, 26. So I'm playing 26 cards that cost 3, which is a little bit over half my deck. So, 51% of the time, we are going to be hitting off C3PO, which is very strong because then the card reads, every other turn draw a card. Because it has a 1/4 stat line, it usually lives, and this card can be drawing us multiple cards. If we ever wing leader it, it's almost impossible to kill, and fleet lieutenanting a C3PO or R2D2 usually will trade with whatever they play on turn 2, which makes them both very, very strong turn 1 plays. And then after that, we're only playing three cards that cost 4. We have Bright Hope, the Gunship, and Gamorrean Guards. I'd say the Gunship and Guards come out in most matches that aren't versus aggro, but you do want these tools versus aggro as a good target off U-Wing. So when I'm playing U-Wing Reinforcements, which is, is Han's go-to best card, I usually want to play a 3-drop and a 4-drop, or 2 3-drops and a 1-drop. So that's why you want to be playing these 6 4-drops here. And that's why I also really like R2D2 off the U-Wing reinforcement. A lot of card that people aren't playing is 97th Legion. Again, if our main goal of Han is to be getting to that 7 resource point, then I really want to be having multiple cards that cost 7. 97th Legion is a really strong game-ending card. While maybe it's only a 6/6 the turn you play it if you cheated into 7 resources, right? Because you'll go back to 6 the next turn. This card can be like a 10/10, and it's a super, super powerful unit that your opponent needs to deal with or they just die. And I like having a bit bigger units because, as you notice, our whole deck is really small. And then the Han Solo that does strike first, but it's only a 6/6. So I like to have big things. And then finally, to finish off our top end, we're playing 2 copies of Home 1. Home 1 is just so, so powerful. We have that 3rd copy in the sideboard. This is usually a game ender. The restore effect is super relevant. And it does say you could play a hero card that costs less than 3. So that means like if you have a bunch of resources, you could even be playing Han Solo out from your yard in the later game, which I have done before and is super, super cool. So let's talk about why I'm not playing a lot of those 2-drops that you might see in other decks and not playing Greedo, and we'll talk about those lines. So let's say I'm playing against Sabine. What I want to do against Sabine is be playing a 3-drop on turn 1, and I really want to be playing either Ezra, Rogue Operative, or Echo Base Defender. Rogue Operative is not as good as the other 2. Why do I want to be playing these cards, though? Is because if they're playing green Sabine, they have, the base that allows them to ambush a unit. And if I'm only playing the 3/3 2-drop that a lot of decks are playing, that card dies to everything that they ECL. They could just ECL in a 3/4, my 3/3 dies for free, and I'm super sad, and I'm probably going to lose that game. But if I play a 3/4 or 4/3 one turn, I completely eliminate that line. And I also always get to trade 2 for 1, which means I get to trade with their card they played turn 2, and I get to attack into their card they're playing turn 3 and possibly killing it, which is why I always want to play a 3-drop on turn 1. And my deck has a lot of 3-drops, so we're not missing it, right? This is very consistent. Some people like calling this deck Casino Han. I would just call it Han, right? I'm playing a very consistent deck that always wants to play a 3-drop on turn 1. And then on turn 2, I want to play another 3-drop. I can't use Han ability the whole game or I'll run out of cards. So, I'm going to follow it up with another 3-drop, and guess what? I probably have one. Or you could do the really cool play and just play a resupply, and then the following turn, we could do Han ability, summon Han, and have 7 resources and play like a U-Wing on turn 3. And when you do those lines against a Sabine player, you're never, ever losing. Let's talk about what we would side in against the Sabine player. So I'm going to be bringing in the Larans to do some healing and the Reinforcement Walkers. Even though Reinforcement Walker costs 8, you actually do get to 8 resources against that matchup quite often. And it's usually around the turn where they start killing you. So if you're able to play a Reinforcement Walker, that 3 extra life might just be the thing that gets you there. You take the initiative and you swing, kill something next turn and heal another 3. And that usually puts you out of range for the rest of the game. So I want to be looking to bring those 4 cards in. Whenever I'm bringing in Reinforcement Walker that isn't against control, I'm usually taking out the 97th Legions. And you could take out, another card that doesn't give you much value, like Spark of Rebellion. Because you usually don't have time to play Spark of Rebellion against aggro, unless you're doing it turn 1. But again, turn 1, I really want to be playing a 3-drop every single time. So those are the 2-for-2 conversions that I would take out in the sideboard. Now let's talk about control. So in this, against control, we do not want to be using Han ability until we're at 6 resources, unless they tap out of all the resources when you have when you guys are both at 5. So if we use Han ability at 6 resources, we go to 7, and then we summon our Han Solo out. And even if they kill it with something or render it unable to attack, we can still follow it up with one of the 8 7-drops in our deck, meaning that we're playing 2 huge threats that they're not going to be able to deal with at the same time. And that is usually how you take control of that control matchup. And again, the deck is very consistent at doing that because it plays 8 7-drops, so you're usually seeing it. The problem with using Han Solo's effect on 5 resources is because you need to attack with him in order to get to that 7 benchmark. And if they play any sort of removal, well, you're kind of shit out of luck at that point. So you really, really want to be careful that you don't fall into the control player's trap and use your Han Solo's effect too early. Another great thing about this version into control is that we have a lot of value cards. C3PO drawing us cards is a relevant ability all throughout the game. And if you play this turn 1 and hit it, and then they force choke your C3PO, you're going to be 2 cards ahead of them the rest of the game. And that can be pretty brutal, especially when we're main decking Spark of Rebellion so that we can hit those late game cards out of their hand. We usually want to be playing Spark of Rebellion around when they're about to go on to 8 resources. That way we can get rid of Super Laser Blast or an Avenger out of their hand. Another card that people might not be playing is Wing Leader. Not only does it cost 3, but it's one of the best targets that we can take off Home 1. If you guys play a Home 1 and target your Wing Leader will then buff up your Home 1 into a 9/9. So that means if they play Avenger, you can always just tribute your Wing Leader to its effect, and you'll still have a 9/9 Home 1, which you can then hit to their face or kill their Avenger off. So Home 1 completely counters Avenger, which is another reason why the card is so good. So into control, we want to actually be bringing in Spark of Rebellion, the Bodhi Rooks, the Bright Hope, the last copy of Home 1, and both Reinforcement Walkers. I actually would probably not take out any of my late game cards against control because I want to see them all. So I'd be taking out the gunships and the Gamorrean guards because those are usually just for aggressive decks. I'd probably take out 1 copy of Waylay. I would probably take out 1 copy of Admiral Akbar. And then I would probably take out, 1 to 2 copies of Rogue Operative because I don't need to be playing a 3-drop, on turn 1 and turn 2, so I don't need as many. Against control, you always want to be mulliganing for resupply or keeping hands that can help you find resupply, like keeping hands with C3PO or R2D2 in your hand. That way you can sift through cards. Ezra also does a great job at helping you sift through cards and looking for that resupply. It is also really good at gaining more value in the late game, as well as combining actions into one. If you Ezra into a Fleet Lieutenant, you can sequence lots of actions all together, which can make for some uncomfortable situations for your opponent. Awesome. Bodhi Rook being in here, don't think that it is only a U-wing target. Playing this card for 5 against control is perfectly fine, because if you noticed, our deck has no 5 drops, which I think is actually a fundamental thing that Han Solo decks should be doing, is because normally on turn 5, we want to be using Han Solo effect, attacking with Han Solo and going into 7. Obviously, against some decks, we're not able to because they can punish us by tapping or removing our Han Solo. But if that's my deck's fundamental game plan, then I don't want to be playing 5 drops at all. So Bodhi actually fits into that slot nicely because we never want to be playing using Han Solo on 5 resources against control unless they tap out and make a huge mistake. So then he fills that curve pretty nice. We play a Bodhi for 5 and we take out our opponent's, let's say, Vigilance, right? If we're both on curve, that's the card they're going to play next turn, and they're pretty sad about it. Also hitting Bodhi off a U-Wing, it is a Rebel unit, so you can buff it with Wing Leader or swing with a Fleet Lieutenant on a Bodhi Rook, which is pretty cool. Nice. I'd say Han Solo's toughest matchup is going to be Luke, but against mid-range decks, you're just going to play the value game with them. Don't feel like you need to use your Han Solo ability at all. Usually you'll be playing card for card with them, so you just want to rely on all the card value and deck value your cards give you, and just play into your late game, because Home One is probably one of the best cards in the game right now. It is unrivaled. You know, people really like Darth Vader, and I'd say they do very similar things, right? You're summoning a body, it impacts the board immediately and gets you another body. Home One does the same thing. While it isn't coming in with ambush, it's a 7/7 spaceship, which is, you know, brutal for your opponent. Like, it's very hard to remove that. And giving everything else restored does impact the board. You can easily heal back up to 30 in this deck with Home One. Nice. So that is the rundown of what happens when you play against aggro in control. And yeah, I really do believe that Han has no bad matchups besides maybe Luke. And that is a very, very skill-intensive matchup that I think Han can usually pull through, just because of some of the extra tools that Han offers by gaining resources when it could be hard for our opponent. We also have access to yellow. Luke decks aren't usually playing yellow, and we can really punish them with waylays when they try to go for shield value plays. Yeah, so we just have really good stats on our cards, so usually our cards can survive getting hit by a shield and then live to tell another tale. But I will say that Luke is probably Han's worst matchup, but I still think it's above 50%, and I think every matchup that Han plays is above 50%. I really encourage you guys to try Han and continue to practice him. I do have a few gameplay videos of Han up on my channel, especially the ones against Iden. I think you guys could learn some things from that. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you guys want me to talk about any card that I did not mention here in the list, leave a comment below. I love to respond. If you guys want me to try any other cards in Han you think I might be overlooking, let me know as well. But this list is very refined. I played it in the May the 4th tournament and had a lot of success playing this deck. I felt that a lot of my matches were easy due to the deck's extreme power level. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. And as always, peace.